Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this Thursday afternoon program. I'm Dylan Ryder from the Johnson County Library. We have the privilege to be joined by Karen Sillens from A+ Career and Resume, who will be talking about job searching. Some quick information about our presenter. Karen Sillens is a multi-certified and award-winning career and business coach. Karen provides resume writing, career and executive coaching, and small business coaching to clients in Kansas City and throughout the U.S. and Canada. Karen has held a membership in the prestigious Forbes Coaches Council since 2016 and was chosen as one of 38 career experts to watch in 2018 on Twitter, and is rated as a top social media influencer for employment, human resources, and recruitment on Agiliance. She resides in Kansas City, Missouri with her husband Andrew and their 4 rescue dogs. Now, feel free to add your comments and questions to participate in our discussion. Karen will attempt to address each question at different points throughout the presentation. Once again, the contents of the program will be recorded for future viewing. So, thank you guys once again, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. I just want to warn everybody, just like last week, we just might have a dog photo bomb, but I doubt it. They are sitting among me here, so they do enjoy being in the same room. I will say that you can be assured that in this seminar, there will be no selling. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to get you as a client. This is purely for your information to make your job search better. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so there's many sources that you can use to get a job. And you want to use everything that's at your fingertips. So the first thing I tell people about is utilizing the traditional online classifieds, the job boards, and the company job boards appropriately. And we will get into that discussion as to how you make them the best use of your time as you move forward in your job search. So you're not wasting time going and searching over and over every day for what's out there. Then there's networking. And people say, oh, networking, I don't know about that. I don't want to go and be with other people, especially right now. Well, it's not always something you have to do where you show up. In fact, right now, of course, there's a lot of virtual events for people. On top of that, you can also network through the next topic, which is social media. Social media, in particular, LinkedIn and Twitter, have a lot of jobs advertised. And people just don't realize they're being advertised on there. But that doesn't mean you can't use Facebook and Instagram and other resources to help you in your job search. Then there's headhunters, personnel agencies, and temporary agencies. And we're going to talk about the difference between them, including the difference between headhunters/recruiters. So that's something that will be towards the end. First, I want to read you a little paragraph, and I know most of you have it in front of you from the handout. Some people don't, who are going to be viewing this later online. Regrettably, some of today's less informed job seekers believe that the internet has transformed the job search into a nearly effortless process. They hastily update their resumes and post them on several online job boards. These job seekers then sit back and wait for an employer to call, and most of them wait a long, long time, often in vain. Even in the age of the internet, a job search still requires hard work. Having a plan, using multiple search methods, and asking for help in all of these increases the chance of your success. Now, what I will tell people is that this is a quote, but it's not a recent quote. It actually comes from around 2001 or 2002, and it is just as appropriate today as it was in that time. People still to this day will call and say, well, I've been posting my resume to Indeed, which we don't do. And we've been searching and searching and searching and searching for months and months, and I've applied to many ads and I'm not getting any response. We're going to talk about when and where you should be posting next to make it more of a benefit to you and to save you time. So first of all, let's talk about how you post. and when. Because I actually have an article in front of me that's on a research study done by Smart Recruiters and TalentWorks that talks about the time of day that you post actually makes a difference in your return on investment. And what I'm seeing with my clients is a significant increase in them getting actual interviews by phone, of course, and then getting invited in. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So I'm going to start reading this. Turns out that applying to the job is only half the battle. The moment at which you hit submit can be the difference between getting called in for an interview and muttering to yourself, better luck next time. Recent research from TalentWorks found that applicants are nearly 5 times more likely to score an interview if they send in an application between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. than they would be if they did so after work. In short, you should submit an online application within this 4-hour window in the company's time zone. The researchers took a look at a subsample of 1,610 job applications submitted randomly. TalentWorks referenced earlier findings showing that you should apply to a position within the first few days of its posting, and coupled it with their recommendations about applying before the clock strikes 10 a.m. In combination, they report just these two optimizations can scientifically increase your odds of getting a job by nearly 40 times. TalentWorks also found that when shooting off an application into the great unknown after 10 a.m., your chances dip by 10% every 30 minutes, though there is a brief reprieve during lunchtime, around 12:30, but then it starts falling again. The post also referenced academic research on timing, which shows that among judges and their mood during the day, particularly related to meal and break time, can mean worse outcomes for parole seekers when the judges are tired and angry. Well, let's talk about that for a moment. When companies look at their information online, it's usually Tuesday. Think about it. Monday, they're cleaning up anything that they didn't get done Friday and anything that happened over the weekend that they need to clean up. So when they go into their systems, they're looking at these around probably 10, 11, 12, sometime around then. When you want to go to lunch, while you may be in kind of a hurry to get there, it doesn't mean you're necessarily unhappy, because most people are like, yay, lunchtime. And so they're fine with that, and they look at stuff and they're in a decent mood. But think about 3 p.m. now, 3:30, 4 o'clock. You're running out of energy. You're not feeling as wonderful. Maybe not looking forward to, if you're still in the office setting, that you're going to have a drive home on the highway or wherever you're coming from, or you're just ready to stop. That's going to be a different person essentially looking at your resume. And their decision on whether to keep your information or forward it on to the hiring manager is going to be significantly impacted by that time frame. If you apply between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., your chances of actually being seen by them are pretty good, because it's going to show them the last ones to make it through the applicant tracking system. And you would be one of those people if your resume is written like it needs to be. So this really helps you to get past that, oh my gosh, they're not going to see my resume ever, and make a big difference in how they view you. They are going to look at you very differently at 4 p.m. than they are at 11 a.m. So we want to take advantage of that more positive attitude, and then being excited about going to lunch versus, or just coming back from lunch, than we do that late day when that you just showed up in their system. So let's talk about now some of the rest of the research. It is the beginning of the work week, but not immediately after the weekend, that you should do your job search. The 2015 research from Smart Recruiters, and this is still true to this day, found that Tuesday is the day when most employers post jobs online. Now, the bigger the company, the more they post all week. And I'm going to use Burns & McDonnell as an example here in town. They post all week, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. But that's because they have a lot more jobs to offer and things are worldwide. A lot of companies that are very large will do that kind of posting, but most companies aren't that big. So they're going to post a lot of times starting on Tuesday, or at least going late onto Monday and into Tuesday. It's also the day when most applicants hit submit, though many of them do so after work, of course, and when most employment offers are actually extended. Smart Recruiter's blog post also detailed what both applicants and recruiters should do when they're ready to be ready when Tuesday comes around. As a job candidate, take the weekend to get your ducks in the row. Update your resume, personalize it where you can towards different ads, and get your references lined up just in case you need them for the job boards and for new postings during the beginning of the week. Specifically on Tuesdays, I advise my clients if they have several jobs to apply for, then they may want to divide them between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because HR does look at the resumes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's just that Tuesday's when they start. And plus, a lot of jobs are actually posted Tuesday into Wednesday. So you don't want to miss out on that chance to get in early on a job. It also says that you should be ready to apply as a new posting goes live. For the recruiters, they also advise that they should be revising their actual job ads to be a better engager of job seekers. It's also worth noting that Smart Recruiters found that most job listings go up around 11 a.m., but that most job seekers don't apply until 2 p.m. or after. It's your best bet to be sending in your application earlier rather than later in the day, no matter what. And TalentWorks also cautioned you shouldn't apply once 4 p.m. has passed, reporting that hitting a submit button after that time leaves you with less than a 3% chance of getting an interview. Even if you're working against the number of days a listing has been online, it should wait until morning. Now, the only caveat to that would be it's ending that day. If it's ending that day, please go ahead and apply. Now, you won't always know based on the ad online if you're looking at it through Indeed or Monster or Career Builder or some other venue like that, whether it's new or not, because many of them have an agreement with the company that is posting with them that every 30 days they renew the ad like it's new. So what you see there and what you see as far as days it's been online on the company's website may be two different things. I also advise people to remember that it's a bad idea to actually post to the job board itself. And you can take your resumes off of there. Some people have multiple resumes sitting on job boards. There's a multitude of things that can happen with your resume out there. The first thing is identity theft. And I have several clients every year who have experienced identity theft because of this. Think about it. You've given them your name, your work history, your education history, and you've possibly given them your address or a portion of your address. And then you've also given them your email address and phone number. It doesn't take much for them to find more information about you and steal your identity. No, you haven't given them your social security number, but they don't necessarily need that in order to cause havoc in your life. So be very careful about posting things on there. A lot of these scammers will pretend to be a company that is actually hiring, and then they can go in there and harvest the databases because they do make them public to people who are paying. However, some people just hack the system and go in there. If you ever read the privacy section on Monster or Indeed or Career Builder, and they're not doing anything wrong, they're trying to make sure your information is out there for companies, but it will kind of scare you as to anybody can get a hold of it just about. The next is password protection. And password protection is something that some of the sites allow you to do to your resume. For instance, unless the employer contacts you, they can't see your stuff. But that doesn't stop a hacker from looking at it. So you're still in the same boat as you were before. Then your current employer. The last thing you want to do is get a bright, shiny new job, and 6 months later, your employer thinks you're online searching. They won't necessarily look at all your information to find out, oh, they haven't listed their most current job on here. This must be old. So you don't want them finding you online and thinking you're searching for a job. And then lastly is reverse spamming. If you put your resume on Monster, you're going to be on about 150 other sites within a couple of days because they have something called a reciprocal relationship with a bunch of other job boards. You didn't ask to be on those job boards, but by putting your resume on there, you gave them permission to put you on those job boards. And that is problematic. So please go ask them to take it off, or you can actually take it off yourself. There are people sitting in an office building or sitting at home now who actually do this for a living, and I've met some of them. Next is your resume and cover letter. When we talked last week, we discussed using reverse chronological, and that still goes. You don't want to change it and create the functional. The reverse chronological will get you more attention versus the scanning systems than you'll ever get with the functional, which can often skip all of those wonderful bullet points you have. And then all of that information is lost. You don't get past the scanning system at all. The applicant tracking system, I want you to think of it like search engine optimization for a website. People put certain information in their website in order to make it more searchable. For instance, since about half my clients come from Kansas City, certain of my information in my website says things like Kansas City resume writer, or Kansas City based resume writer, or Kansas City based career coach. So that gets me into the search engine for that specific terminology, which people type in all the time. So when that comes up, I come up. Same thought process with the applicant tracking system. It's the right keywords and key phrases that they have in their system for the job, not just in the ad. Now, there are several different versions you can use, but I recommend, unless it asks for a PDF, give it a Word version, and give it a Word version in a serif font like Times New Roman. That is a font that has the little tags at the end of the letters. So for instance, if you look at a T, it has little tags on the end of it. In fact, almost all the letters do. And it's easier for the system to read your resume that way. It doesn't mean that sans serif is terrible. It's just even easier to read it when it's in serif font. And all that sans serif means is no tags. Essentially, what you're doing is you're providing it what the system wants, as opposed to a PDF, which a lot of systems read as a picture and they don't even see the information in the document. Some systems are robust enough to absolutely see your information as a PDF, but they will tell you usually that they can do that, and that may even be their preferred method of taking your resume. And then the other type is what's called an ASCII, or a plain text. You won't see the need to do that very often, but if you do, all you need to do is go in and Google and type in plain text resume instructions, and boom, a whole bunch of instructions will come up for you. It's just making your resume look like essentially what the internet looked like when it was first populated with information. It's that particular font, which is called Courier New, and you take a lot of the bells and whistles out of it. Narrow your search when you're online. So a lot of people will just go put sales for salesperson, and they'll get inundated with information. Instead, you want to put things like sales representative, account manager or account executive, or maybe sales coordinator. I tell people, try to have at least 3 titles that you see coming up over and over again. That's going to expand what you get to see and hopefully overcome some of the spam stuff that comes up on your site of these jobs that you don't want to see. It really does help to have more than one job title. We don't need 10 of them in there, but if we get 3 or 4 job titles, that's very handy. Some of you are looking for multiple types of jobs. So you might have 1, a job that, let's say, is for marketing, 2, a job for sales, and 3, a customer service manager. Each one of those gets a separate job search with separate titles. Now let's talk about job board aggregators. This is the best way for you to search for a job online. And I recommend 2, and they're both very different. One is part of the hidden job market that people often don't get to see. So first is Indeed. Indeed actually takes information from Monster and Career Builder and all of the other sites that are out there except for usajobs.gov. And what it does is it presents you that information and doesn't necessarily tell you where it's coming from, but those jobs are all in there. Why would you go do separate searches on multiple sites when you can do just a search through them? So you want to set up alerts. And how you do that is determine the specific job titles you want to search for, and then tell it to email you daily a compilation of what's new that's come out that they can see that day. So each day you're getting fresh jobs that have just come out, or they've been renewed after the 30 days. So you're going to see those new jobs come out onto your email. And that is very handy for time management. Instead of you spending all of this extra time going through all these jobs and just going, oh gosh, what do I do? This is just too much information. The jobs come to you. And now you can make a decision. What do I want to look at? What do I not care about? Because it's just a click through to the site. Then Link Up has no relationship to LinkedIn. This doesn't have the ED on the end of LINK. It's a separate site all on its own and works the same as Indeed, with one exception. Instead of aggregating information from multiple job boards that are those big public job boards like Monster, it aggregates information from company job boards. Companies will not advertise all their jobs online. They just won't do it because they're expecting their employees to recommend them people. They're expecting networking to get them a certain amount of people. And sometimes just the fact that people happen by them because they're looking at the company at the time. So they're wanting to control the amount of information and people that come into their site. Well, since they're not going to be advertising online, how do you find them, or at least online in the traditional method? Well, you use Link Up. Link Up, as long as their website with the job board does not require a password to access it, boom, you can see those jobs. So you're going to get a different set of returns on there than you will on Indeed. That is part of the hidden job market. If you don't know the jobs out there because you haven't been to the website and you don't know somebody who knows about that job, this is the way to find it. Next, corporate websites. Some of you have target companies, and I highly recommend you keep track of those few companies and go to their job sites personally to make sure that you don't miss something. If you do, go to their site. Plan a specific day or two a week to go review them. Don't go every day, you don't need to, but you do want to maybe go a couple times a week. There are field and occupation specific websites and professional associations and societies that will have jobs listed on them. For instance, SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management. It has a bunch of jobs listed for human resource professionals. I belong to several associations that have jobs listed on them as well for people within that industry, like the National Career Directors Association. If you're going to use those sites because you already have a membership and you're going to be there looking at an article or something, you may as well use their job board too. See what's out there. Sometimes it's very limited and sometimes they have a bunch of jobs listed. So find out what you can about that first and see if they even have that offered. Let's talk just briefly about recruitment scams. So sometimes you'll get contacted online. Sorry, I need to take a drink of water there for a moment. And they'll say to you, your resume didn't make it past our scanning system. We'd love to help you. Sometimes that help is supposedly a version of how you're going to write your resume and the specific Word document you're going to use or whatever. Don't fall for that. It's full of extra information that a lot of times won't even be able to download it onto a website. What you have, if you've written it, like we've talked about, will work. The big problem is their stuff, their samples don't work. And so they're so large because they've got all this extra stuff in the background and who knows what that's for. And I don't think we want to know what that's for, that it can't even be downloaded onto most sites. So it's a very large file and you just don't realize it until you're trying to download it. The other thing is they contact you and they say, well, since you didn't make it past the scanning system, we can write one for you. Don't fall for that either. Usually you're about to get invited with you and your spouse or significant other or whatever to a meeting to talk to them. And so right now, most likely on something like Zoom, where they're about to quote you a price that's going to make you pass out in your chair. And they're supposedly going to help you find a job through that and all of that. They're not real. Don't fall for them. Don't even consider them. Just skip over them. One of the reasons these companies do that is because they'll get people who will pay them $5, $10, $15, $20,000 or more to supposedly help them write a resume and secure their job. That is not a workable solution. It does not actually happen. In the database that they're using, they're just spamming people with your resume if they're even sending them. Do not fall for that. So now I'm going to take a few questions.
Karen, we are all good on the question front. You are covering all of the material and everybody is super satisfied, it looks like.
Okay, well, let's move forward now on to company research. You should definitely research each and every company you're applying to. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one is that delightful question in the interview where they say, tell me what you know about us, to which most people can't answer much. And that's very sad. My husband is actually sitting in the same room that I'm sitting. He has interviewed many people. And when asked what they know about the company that he works for, most people can't tell him. And that's very sad. We want to be able to have some understanding of them. So you also want to know what their ratings are online. What's the satisfaction of the workers there? And how's their interview process? So Indeed often ranks them or gives them stars based on their interview process and sometimes on the company itself. That's a very good thing to know about. Now you can combine that with Glassdoor, for which you can get the full complement of information they'll offer, including salaries and all kinds of stuff within a company, if you just give them some information about where you've worked. You take one company you've worked for and you give it a rating anonymously. And that's the beauty of it. It's anonymous. If you even need to change your title a little bit to make sure you can do it and you won't be recognized, do that. I just want to make sure that you can get on there. Now, do not be a Debbie Downer on that site. Tell them honestly if there were problems, but don't sit there and nag about the company. You just want to give them enough information so now you can access what you need to see to do your research. So now you may be able to find out what people get paid at that company for the very job you're applying for, whether people like to work there or not. And that's a 0 to 5 stars. One of the things you want to know about this is that if it's above 3 stars, it's probably not a terrible company. And that's a horrible thing to say. But there is a certain amount of people who, no matter what, will not be satisfied and they will give very low ratings. Everything's bad. The glass is not only half empty, they don't have their cheeseburger. So they're upset. They're going to write nasty grams on there. Then there's a portion of people that no matter what are going to be so nice as to not be worthwhile. And so they're going to say really nice things about the company. Or they're an executive that's scared that they'll figure out it's them. And so of course they write nice things about them. And of course there's the occasional person from the company that just feels like, oh gosh, they asked me to go write them a review, I better be nice. Then there's the mid-level employees, middle management, project managers, IT, anything in that realm, business analysts, higher level salespeople, all of those people will typically give you a better peek into what the company's really like. And one of the things I really like about using this is the fact that if you get a good peek into what it's like, but you see a few things that concern you, you can always maybe weave those into the conversation a little bit and say, I noticed on Glassdoor that there were a few comments about. Now you can find out some information and see what they have to say about it. And trust me, the more they hem and haw in that interview about that, the more this is a problem. But if they sit there and they just answer your questions about it, chances are it's probably not a huge issue within the organization. Reference USA is also a wonderful site and available through the library. Please, if you do not have a membership to the library, go get one. You don't even have to be in the same town. You can be anywhere and get a membership to a library, essentially. And Reference USA is definitely available through Johnson County Library. And then the Business Journal. This is even better because the Business Journal is so important. What happens is that people want to do research on a company, but there's certain amounts of information they're not going to get if, say, they get the Kansas City Star or one of the other local papers online that talks about what's going on in companies. And sometimes you just won't find it by typing in something and be able to access all the info. Well, Johnson County Library and several of the other libraries in the area have essentially a giant subscription to Kansas City Business Journal to use, and it's extremely helpful. I absolutely love the Business Journal for multiple reasons. Do you want to know if a company's thinking about moving here or moving away? The Business Journal will know, because all they talk about is business in the general area for which they're posted at the time. Kansas City is one of, I think, about 100 cities that they have business journals in. This is hugely important for you to know about this particular benefit of the library. It costs about $180 for a subscription to it for 3 years. Here at the library, you can reference it for free. It comes out every Friday, and then it will tell you things like, this company may be merging with somebody, or it may be acquired by someone. It also has every week a specific group of information for, say, top 25 web design firms, top 25 accounting firms, or even top 25 universities around town. Let's say you're looking to go back and get an MBA. This might be a great place for you to start. And those are in also a compiled journal at the end of the year that's called the Big Book of Lists. And so 52 lists are sitting in there, and those can include the top companies in town as far as publicly traded and privately held. It also has women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses. If there's specific things you want to target, chances are that book can help. Then networking opportunities. In the back end of there, close to the end of each one, is a list of networking opportunities in there. And it's going to tell you, do you have to pay? Is it online? Is it in person? All of those things are in there for you to understand. And that's extremely helpful so you can target what you want to do for the week. Go every Friday, take a look at it. It's worth your time. Plus, what if you see an article about that company in there? How cool is that going to be in an interview to say that, well, you recently read an article in the Kansas City Business Journal about them? As long as it's not a bad article, that should be a big positive for you. Next, using the ads to your advantage. There's several things you can do with the online classifieds that are going to help you. Number one, information to tailor your resume and cover letter. While some ads are very generic, not all of them are. Some of them are very specific and provide great information to help tailor your resume. Additional keywords and key phrases you haven't thought of, that if they're in their ad, they're in their system. Additional things that you also don't think about oftentimes in personalizing a document is their job title or how they go about referencing education. For instance, they may actually spell out Bachelor of Science, Business Administration, as opposed to B period, S period, Business Administration. Do it the way they have it in the ad. That's more likely to get you past the system. So those little things make a big difference. And then name that file for that personalized resume and cover letter with that company name and resume and cover letter. That way you have that information when you go on an interview. You know what you personalized, you know what's specific in there to them. I cannot tell you how many times I've been sitting in an interview with somebody, or I've been doing career fair critiques, And there, there's 20, 30, 40 plus different companies at these career fairs, and people bring in a resume and cover letter, and it's all tailored to H&R Block. That does not look good. Or they go to an interview, and my clients tell me this all the time who hire people. I regularly see somebody come into the interview and bring a resume and cover letter for us to view that has incorrect information on it. It's for another company. Do not be that person. Next is the blind or deceptive ads. Let's be careful with blind and deceptive ads. If there's no company name, and that includes the recruitment firm or whatever, don't apply to it. That doesn't mean that it has to tell you who the company is that they're representing. A good recruitment firm, particularly the retained search firms, they've already been paid. They're going to actually have the information there for you that tells you what the company wants. They're just not going to give you the name so you can go apply separately. Always available. If you constantly see an ad out there, unless it's McDonald's, why is the job always available? You need to question that if it's a pretty high level job, or if it's a job that they shouldn't have 45 people doing that in the company. Too many mentions of the following in the ad. Fast-paced and multitasking. We know these ads have those words in them because they're generic place cards that are in the ad. However, if they say them multiple times, just run, because chances are those companies are going to expect you to do the job of 3 people, and they're not going to give you any overtime for it. That's going to be a salary job, and you're going to be working 80 hours a week. It is not worth working for them. The word passion. If you're a teacher, a police officer, in the military, a firefighter, or in healthcare, you should have a passion for what you're doing, because you'll never get paid enough for what you do and the hours you put in. However, how much passion do you really need to be a business analyst? I know you should like what you do, but passion may be a little over the top. And passion in the Greek means to suffer. So this is probably not something you want to be doing for your job. If they mention that multiple times, again, that's a warning sign. Must have a good sense of humor. That's been appearing in more jobs or job ads. Now, one company that it appeared in, it turned out they sold little, they were the tchotchkes that had the company names on it, the logos and everything. And they were just a fun place to work. They had all kinds of little cute, fun things and everything, and they were real nice people. And my client that interviewed there said that, they'd get up on the tables and they'd shoot Nerf guns at each other when they get a big sale, and, the vice president would do it with them and all that kind of stuff. That is a good company. That's why they want you to have a good sense of humor. They don't want you to be horrified because you're like, why is the vice president on a desk with a Nerf gun? But most of the time, it means they're so busy and they're so short-staffed that they just hope you'll take it all with a little sense of humor, and it won't bother you to work 90 hours a week. So be very careful with that particular phrase. And lastly, the word flexible. Most ads will say flexibility. However, you need to make sure that that flexibility is not something that they're going to require in a way that's inappropriate. For instance, I had a client who was actually a person who was supposed to be doing medical billing coding. And what did she wind up doing? She wound up every night before she left actually sweeping floors, mopping them, and cleaning the bathroom because they didn't want to pay a cleaning crew. And they made sure that the night that they told her that they couldn't use her services anymore, that she did that for them before they gave her the news. I find that particularly nasty. But flexibility can sometimes not mean as you grow in your job, some things leave and some things come on board to your position. Sometimes it means you're going to do things you do not want to be doing. Next, they want a unicorn. This is particularly important in IT or anything technology related. Companies will put every program, every system, everything that could possibly be available in the universe in their ad, but they don't have it at the company, but they want you to be able to use it. Sometimes you'll see that even for office managers, admins, and even some of the more generalized positions like a salesperson. So what you see is, oh gosh, I don't have all of these. I can't possibly apply. They usually don't have all of them either. They're wanting a unicorn, and unicorns don't exist. So we need to understand that we probably should go ahead and apply and see if they really have all of that. Sometimes HR, and I'm a former HR director, I understand this, but you always get the person who's hiring their opinion on what needs to go in that ad. Sometimes HR writes that without them, and that can cause a problem. Next, very little in the description. Saw an ad, 2 ads actually recently for a large company here in town that I was absolutely shocked because I know what their ads usually look like, that had 2 sentences for each of the descriptions for 1, a project manager, and 2, a business analyst. That was a shocker. And that means they didn't really know what they wanted. And I'm not sure how they got it past HR to get it posted. But the problem is, if they don't know what they want, is that really going to be a job that's going to stay? Is it fully fleshed out? What's going on here? Are they just collecting some resumes and wasting your time? Then, too wide of an earning potential. You can make from $30,000 to $100,000 a year. Either that's a sales position or it's some kind of scam. And even in the sales positions, they shouldn't play that game. They should say, hey, you start out at this and your commission is topped out at whatever, or it's not topped out at all. But be careful of an overly wide earning potential. Just don't even apply unless you're a salesperson. Any questions now?
Nope, still good. You're
Okay.
covering all the bases.
Yay. All right, so next is networking, and this is kind of a fun one. So networking is something that scares the heck out of people because most people would rather stick a fork in their eye than go to a networking event because they think it's some formalized thing that's going to be, oh, I have to do certain things, and people write whole books on it. It's not that fancy. So first of all, let's talk about the 3 types of people we target. Number 1, people you already know. Everybody you know who doesn't work for your company, unless everybody's being downsized, should know you're looking for a job. Now, if you have an Uncle Fred and an Aunt Margaret, and they're going to say, I don't understand why you haven't kept your job for 45 years like me, then don't tell them. But tell everybody else that you're looking, because you don't know who they know that might know somebody within a company. Then the next thing that happens is people don't want to tell certain family members or tell a neighbor or anything because they're embarrassed. You have nothing to be embarrassed about to be job searching. You cannot help if you were downsized. And guess what? If you were fired, you don't need to tell them that. They don't need to know what happened. Tell them you were downsized. But be sure that you tell people you're searching. Most people know 150 to 200 plus other individuals or couples who potentially might work for a company you want to work for. So if they can hook you up with those individuals, that would be very nice for you. Now you get potentially your information in a system when you apply for a job automatically routed for a phone interview. How important can that be? That could lead to the in-person interview or on-site, at least kind of via a video, and a job. So don't ignore those. And people say, well, I don't want everybody to know my business. I had a client whose brother-in-law lost his job and he wouldn't tell anybody. And my particular client at that time worked for a large company here in town, but was also in a job search. He actually knew of lots of jobs available that this particular person could have done. And yet his brother-in-law wouldn't say anything. It took the wife, the sister, to actually say something after a year of unemployment and almost losing their house. Do not be that person. Do not allow your pride to stand in your way. Next are people you need to reconnect with. Now that is a great group of people oftentimes that you've either worked with in the past or that you know from college. Sometimes these are people that you're also connected with on Facebook, but you don't usually have interactions with them. These are great people to actually email, in-mail, whatever you need to do, or message through Facebook. Find out how they're doing. Do not start out with, I'm looking for a job. Instead, ask them how they're doing, how is their family, what's going on, where are they working, stuff like that. Find out information from them. They will ask you the same thing, and then you can fit in there, oh, well, I just lost my job, but that's how it goes in this economy, or whatever you want to say. But now you've put it out there. You never know if they're going to say something to you about, ooh, I know somebody who does XYZ at this company. I think they could help you. And that's happened to my clients many times. Then there's people you will meet along the way, people you become connected to on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is hugely useful, and you should be on it. This can also be people you want to be connected to that you've already targeted. You're like, oh, they work for this company. I would love to get to know them. And if you think about it, whether it's Facebook or it's a connection through LinkedIn or even Twitter, the more people that you're connected to that are related to them in some way, think 6 degrees of separation, the more likely you are to be able to get a connection to them. But if you're not active on that media, you're not going to get that connection, because they're going to wonder why they only have 5 connections. Are they reaching out to me? Now, if we go to an in-person, or we have one via video and we're meeting people, because a lot of times via video, they can set it up so you do, say, 10-minute chats with different people throughout the hour or two. You're going to meet a varied amount of people, and I have nicknames for them. And the reason you want to know about these people is because some of them you want to limit your conversation time. So let's talk about those. The first ones you want to limit your conversation time or not even approach are the people in the cliques. Those will be at in-person events or a party or a wedding or a funeral. Please don't network during the wedding or funeral, but afterwards, usually people are talking. So when you see the cliques, they're all standing together. They're usually at networking events, flipping their hair and laughing and eating the cheese and drinking the wine with a group of people they just came from the office with. They're not networking, but they think they're being seen. It's kind of like the popular kids in high school where you couldn't really approach the group without them looking at you like you just grown an extra head off your shoulder. So don't bother going to them. It's not going to help you. They're going to look at you weird, and you're not going to get a conversation with them. Next are the egomaniacs. Egomaniacs are really interesting. Sometimes it takes a few moments before you figure out they are an egomaniac. But think of the song, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better. And in their case, so can their spouse, so can their dog, so can their car, so can their kid. So they're going to be sure to tell you how anything you mention, they know somebody who can do it better than you that's in their family, or they can. Once you figure this out, tell them how much you've enjoyed meeting them, but you have to go do something. You see somebody you haven't talked to in years. Can I get your business card, or can I get your contact information? And then you don't ever have to contact them. But you're extricating yourself from the situation. And this is how you handle it with all of these different people who you don't really want to spend extra time with because it's going to be a problem. Next are vampires. Vampires will suck the life out of you. Their whole life is a giant problem, and they want you to help them solve it. You cannot solve that for them. I know that you may feel bad for them, and you can feel bad for them. And if you want to send them a little help via LinkedIn or something, go ahead. But they will wear you down, and they will follow you around telling you how, well, their life is terrible and no one will hire them and no one loves them. I once did a seminar where the whole group there was a bunch of vampires, and that was an interesting experience. But I will tell you that they all meant well. but they're so desperate by that point, or that's just their personality in general, that they're actually creating more problems than they're ever solving. So, can I get your business card? I so enjoyed meeting you. Next, know-it-alls. It doesn't matter what you talk about, they know everything about it. It's not worth having a conversation with them. Just let it go. You know, I may know a lot about different subjects, and so do you, but you don't know about everything, and neither do I. And so it's much better to say, hey, I don't know anything about that. You will never hear that from a know-it-all. Can I get your card? Naysayers. You're trying to help them. You're recommending something they can do on LinkedIn. You're recommending a job board like Link Up to them. Oh, I've tried things like that. It doesn't work. Well, I've tried that and it doesn't work. No matter what you tell them, it doesn't work and they've tried it. Maybe. Can I get your card? That's going to be your best way to get out of that. Or can I get your information? And lastly, are takers. They want stuff from you. They are not there to help you. They're only there to help themselves, and they are networking for the wrong reason. Always remember the number one rule of networking. It is not about you. It is about everyone else that you would be helping potentially at that event. And you're only going to go there, whether it's online or in person, and meet probably 5 or 6 people total. You're not going there if there's 250 people involved to meet all of them. Let's talk about the positive ones. Master networkers. Master networkers, you'll know the minute they enter the room because everybody will swarm them. The Hellsbergs here in town are master networkers. Wonderful people, so friendly and so funny. The thing is, the minute they walk in a room, everybody wants to, talk to them, and you'll know it. And when they talk to you, it's as if you are the most important person in the world to them at that moment. That's why they're a master networker. They understand the art of looking a person in the eye and spending that time with them and ignoring everything else that's going on in the periphery. Next, Fraidy cats. Fraidy cats are perfect people to network with. Now, these will be at in-person events typically. They will be out in the outskirts of the event. They'll be standing with a drink. They'll be looking around like, my boss made me come. Or they have heard that they should network, and so they're just there. But they don't know how to approach people, and they're not comfortable doing it. This is perfect for anyone. I don't care how shy you are. You can stand next to somebody and go, there's more people than I thought would be here tonight. Or there's not as many people as I thought would be here tonight. That's the very essence of networking right there. Start a conversation, but start it in a way that they have to answer back to you. And if they're friendly, boom, congratulations, you've just started networking. We do not need to make networking a fancy thing that people write books about. Networking is as simple as starting a conversation and knowing that it's your job to find out about them, not your job to tell them all about you. If they're not an egomaniac or somebody like that, they'll be asking questions about you and you'll have the chance. Then there's the card dispensers. They really do mean well, and they will walk immediately up to you and hand you their card. And they're almost like Otter from Animal House, if any of you have watched that movie. And he just comes down for the pledge class and starts going, hi, Eric Stratton, glad to meet you, shaking their hand, one right after another. Eric Stratton, glad to meet you. Eric Stratton, pledge, whatever, glad to meet you. He may as well have had a business card in his hand. He didn't care about them. And that's kind of how it looks when they do that. When they approach you and they give you that business card, we may not be shaking hands today, but we probably will still be trying to hand out business cards at some point. If that happens, or they're trying to give you information, say the following to them. Interesting, tell me more about what you do. And watch their jaw drop on the ground, because they're going to be shocked somebody cared enough to ask them. And sometimes these people really do have a lot of contacts. They're just not quite sure how to do this in a more formalized environment. Lastly are the Klingons. They think that you're their sister from another mother or brother from another mother, and they think you're wonderful, and they will sing your praises, and they will recommend you to anybody and everybody they can. They're just clingy. I'm not talking about a stalker. I'm talking about somebody who, hey, I'm comfortable talking to you at this event, and I want to walk around the event with you. Be a part of that. Take them with you. They're not complainy, they're not weird, they just really like you. And you can like them back, and it will be of an advantage to you. And make sure you do get their information. They will often recommend you for jobs, and they have some pretty good contacts usually. You can network anywhere there are other people. And I even have a list here. So, social networking, let's just for a moment talk about LinkedIn, because that's really important to your job search. So I just wrote an article on LinkedIn that I shared, and it's on my blog as well, that says you need to be on LinkedIn. Anywhere from 92 to 97% of companies, depending upon the poll you read, actually use LinkedIn to review you. They want to see the following things. Number one, a good picture. No selfies, no looking serious, no taking your picture in your casual clothes. Put on something decent, something nice, and have your picture taken for a head and shoulders shot. But it doesn't mean you have to go get a fancy photographer to do it. Have a friend who takes good pictures, take a picture of you in front of a bookcase with something interesting in it, books and things, a nice picture, something that's interesting in brickwork or a painting treatment, but not just a plain painted wall. You know, it should be something that's a nice treatment on the wall of some sort, or something that is, say, beautiful tile. What that will do is help create a better backdrop for your picture and make you look better. My picture on my website is actually from one of the libraries here in town, and they were taking free pictures. God bless them. And I took advantage of that just a few years ago. So it's a pretty recent picture. And it's actually a set of windows in the background that the photographer just kind of hazed a little bit. So you can still see they're back there, but they were very interesting windows, and it made for a really nice picture. Have the person take multiple pictures and smile. There are more angry looking people on LinkedIn than I can begin to tell you. We do not use a picture of us in formal wear in any sort of family picture where we're cutting people out and their arms are in, you know, the pictures and stuff. A picture of you, head and shoulders shot, smiling. And if you don't like your teeth, just smile with your mouth. Because there's something about a person that you see that smiles that engages you. And now you want to talk to them. If they see you frowny faced or trying to look serious on the internet, they may not want to talk to you. And I do hear that from human resources people all the time. I have 2 of them as clients right now, and they tell me that's a big turnoff when they go and see that you didn't even put the effort to smile in your picture, or you took a selfie. Selfies really annoy them. Next is making sure you fill out your profile. And by the way, that really nice picture probably ought to be on all your social media for a while. There's a real benefit of having your full profile filled out. So the jobs you've held, at least for the last 10 years, your education, and be honest about it. If you only attended for 2 semesters, tell them that, but you're still an alumni of that university or college. So don't be afraid to put it on there. Most people actually don't have a college degree. Only 28.4%, according to the last census in the Bureau of Labor Statistics, actually has a 4-year degree. And not that many more have a 2-year. So you are in the majority if you don't have one. Be sure to tell the truth, though, and not say you have something that you don't, or lead them to believe you have it when you don't. Another thing is to fill out the keyword section, which is called skills. And it's wonderful. You could put 50 of them in there, but don't put Microsoft Office, because everybody's got that in theirs, and that's one, as opposed to you could have Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Access, you could have Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Word, but you also usually use some other software in your job. And if it's not proprietary, a lot of times you can put that stuff on there, whether it's Oracle or SAP or some Adobe Creative Suite, something like that. Be sure to get those kinds of things on there, along with specifics in the job that you're targeting or jobs you're targeting. So if you're in sales or customer service, most likely, or marketing, business development should be on there. The very names of what you do, sales, marketing, customer service, employee management, those should all be on there. That's going to get you more bang for your buck. You want an appropriate title below your name. So if you have a job title right now, that's fine, and you can just put that on there. However, if you're not working, please don't put looking for opportunities. That is a huge turnoff to people who see it. Be sure to put on there a set of keywords about what you do. So I'm going to use sales again. Sales / business development / leadership, because say you want to be a manager. Now that kind of stuff is really going to help you. Now I have a good question that just popped up. How do you determine the type of expertise you have in a given software? So this person asked about Excel, and that's one of my biggest questions I get as far as Excel. If all you can do is pop open the thing and look at it, you don't have experience in Excel. If you can use the information in regard to using the sum key and doing simple calculations, then you have some skill. It's a lower level, but some skill in that particular type of software. But Excel does so much more. And so if you can also do more complicated functions in it, and I'm not talking yet about macros and pivot tables, but if you can do more complicated formulas, now you're intermediate. And if you can do macros and pivot tables and things like that, and VLOOKUPs and all of that, now you're going into the more advanced. So that's how you determine it. If you just use it and look at it, that just means you're looking at it. You're merely a consumer of it, but you don't do anything that makes it better. If you're using it in a way that you're putting things into it and you're manipulating it, now we can start talking about how much you use that software. Another thing you want to include on there is a summary. And you could use a few just statements like sentences, put your degree in there again, put some of your best expertise, 10 plus year career in blah, blah, blah. Or you can use a couple of sentences or paragraphs if need be from your cover letter. But be sure that it's not specific to a company or anything, but that you're talking to somebody, whether in third person or first person, that talks about your skills and your abilities and what you're going to provide to them. Not what you want, but what you're going to provide to an organization. Next, think about finding networking opportunities, which was another question that popped up. So here is what you do. Number one, local chambers of commerce. Go to their sites. And some of them that I highly recommend include the Olathe Chamber. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to live in Olathe. You could live north of the river. Olathe Chamber of Commerce, Lenexa Chamber of Commerce. So this is obviously for the local Kansas City area. And the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They are come one, come all. We don't care if you're Hispanic, please come join us. And they are a wonderful group. So you can get a lot of help from them because they know of jobs that are out there. Sometimes they even have a lot of jobs that come to them that people ask about. Do you know anybody that can do these? And sometimes they'll share them. So you may as well take advantage of them. But that doesn't mean other chambers aren't wonderful too, and that you shouldn't look into them. Another thing that you can do is also look at job fairs. Job fairs are all about networking, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. Kansas City Online Community, which is a group that's available through LinkedIn, is a very good group to belong to. And oftentimes they, along with Linked, LINKED, to TOKC, will have information on their group as well, which has about 14,000 members, and KC Online Community has about 8,000 members. And usually on LinkedIn, it'll come up as Kansas City Online Community or Kansas City Online Group. They are both full of people, many of them recruiters and hiring managers, and many different opportunities shown on there. So use them to your benefit. Network after work events, which right now are mostly online. And then, of course, the Kansas City Business Journal. So a lot of those will tell you whether the event is online or in person. And so that's hugely important to you so you know what you're getting into and you're not trying to go to an event if you're not comfortable with that. Next, let's talk about job search time management. So job search time management is all about devoting enough time but not overwhelming yourself to the point where you become burnt out on it, because your job search may take a while. A job search is not for sissies. I said that on a recent local NPR station when I did a radio interview, and it's true. It's harder than it ever used to be. It, in fact, used to be as simple as printing off something, putting it in an envelope, sending it. Chances are within 10 or 15 that you sent, you were already getting interviews. Nowadays, you can send out 100 resumes and not hear from anybody. So first of all, how much time? You should not be spending 10 hours a day on your job search. That's not practical. But your job is to find a job. So let's talk about maybe 4 to 5 hours of different things that you do every day that can be of benefit to you. For instance, researching companies, which is where you can send yourself an email, do company research, have the job ad copied in there, any contact information, follow-up notes, all of that stuff can be encompassed in an email that actually has the company name on it. That will be in the subject line. Now you'll know, oh, this is from ABC company. That's really going to help you track the information appropriately and have good information in it that's going to help you ultimately showcase to them you have done your research on them and know a lot about them. Another thing that you want to do is sign up for those job alerts through Indeed and LinkUp. Instead of spending all your time searching, which is often what takes people so much time, now you can spend your time doing minor tailoring to your resumes and cover letters based on what's in their ad. And that helps you personalize documents to go to them. Then there's applying for jobs. Now, applying for jobs, the one thing I will tell you about is some of them take a lot less time these days. Some of them really just ask for the basics. You answer a few questions, and then you put in your resume, and you're done. Some of them make you repeat that process per job and all of this kind of stuff, and that takes longer. So depending upon the job ad, you may apply in 15 minutes, or it may take you 45 minutes to an hour. So allow for that extra time that some of them may take you. And if you're doing government ads, especially federal, you're going to be on there for a while. I will just tell you that. Next is your voicemail, which people don't think about in job search time management. But you do not want people not leaving you a message because your voicemail is not appropriate. Do not have the please leave a message on there. That is a bad voicemail. Find out how to put the voicemail on your phone. Ask a 12-year-old for a cell phone. They can tell you. Then what you do with that is to actually put on there your name. This is not the same as it was 20 years ago when a lot of people still had home phones and they were worried somebody might know they're home or they're not home. They don't know now because half the people out there, even when they have home phones, and I still have one, and I have 2 cell phones, we don't answer it half the time. So here's what you do. Hi, you've reached Karen. I'm not available right now, but if you could please leave your name, message, and number, I'll get back to you just as soon as possible. Don't forget to put your name on it, because people call and they think, I don't know if I got the right number, so they call back again and they're like, I think this is the right thing, and maybe they will, and maybe HR won't, or a recruiter will or won't leave a message. Make them guess they might not. The other thing is the roaming music. Sometimes you'll get, wait while we find the Nextel customer or whatever, which I didn't think existed anymore, but I get it on phones all the time, and you'll get roaming music. Roaming music should be appropriate. Not, I want to sex you up, how, I'm sexy and I know it, and all these other songs. Put something classical on there. It won't insult anybody. Lastly, who answers your phone? And do you sound happy when you do? I call clients sometimes and they're like, hello? And then they find out who it is and like, oh, Karen, how are you? That is not a friendly answer. If you're not going to answer the phone friendly, then don't answer it. Let them leave a message. If you are going to have a child answer the phone and then they're going to scream mom or dad into it to find you, that's also bad. If there's lots of noise in the background, and that's a primary issue. When you leave your message on your phone, it's in a quiet room, no noise in the background. When you answer the phone, Please leave the room if you're in one that's noisy, or if you're out and about, don't answer it at that time. You don't want all this excess stuff going on in the background where people can't hear you. It's also appropriate to answer the phone and do so with the phone or your headset, not the speakerphone. You sound like a bad McDonald's drive-through speaker, or you're in a giant bathroom that just echoes back. And a lot of times echoes the other person's voice back to them. Now they won't leave a message with you because they're like, I can hear myself, and they'll hang up on you sometimes. Instead, please answer it, preferably via the phone. And again, in a quiet room. I know that sounds very picky, but you're trying to make your best impression. The first thing that they hear makes an incredible impression on you, just like when they see your smiling face on LinkedIn. Let your first impression be a best impression. So now let's talk about headhunters, personnel agencies, and temporary staffing. I enjoy that little note, Dylan. What's the difference? Headhunters, which you'll also hear called recruiters, come in three types. First of all, there's recruiters that work for companies here in town, as in Hallmark, H&R Block, DST Systems, places like that. Their job every day, all day, is to find people for that company, usually in a range of job types. So there might be an executive recruiter, and then there's a mid-level management recruiter, and then maybe there's a tech recruiter, and then there's somebody for customer service type roles. Then there's a retained search firm. They are being paid regardless of whether the company sources the person through them or not. And then there's contingency. They're not going to be paid unless you secure that job. The cost to a recruiter often that's external like that, they're going to charge the company upwards of 30 to 35%, depending upon what they're charging, of your annual salary to place you there. How many companies, unless they've already decided to go with a retained search firm, are going to pay that extra money unless you're in a very unique field like cybersecurity? Most companies won't. So the first question out of your mouth when a recruiter calls you and it's not from that company that you're trying to target, it would be, are you contingency or retained? And is this particular job contingency or retained? Because retained search firms also do contingency searches. It's not that you can't use them. It's just you want to be careful. Personnel agencies are just like they sound. They're placing people usually in like accounting roles. They may place them in things like customer service. They'll place them in warehousing. Admin roles are very popular. There's a lot of places in town that place people for admin roles. Then there's temporary staffing, and sometimes that's temp to perm. You'll also see that for like staff accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, admin, things like that. So it just depends. They'll also have things that are warehousing and various logistics type jobs that go with them. You should not pay for their services. It should never be something you pay for. I want that out there as clear as it can be. Do not pay them. They are getting paid by their client or the person they hope is going to be their client. So let them be paid by somebody else. And they're working for them. They're not working for you technically. They're working for them. What can they do for you? Potentially get you an intro into a company you would not get otherwise, especially from the retained search. The retained search is specifically there because the company probably doesn't want to do the hiring for that particular position. And those will usually be positions mid-level and up. Sometimes they make you sign a contract saying you'll stay for a certain amount of time and you won't leave, or you will owe money back. Be very careful with that. Be industry specific. If you are an admin, go to somebody who specializes in admin. If you're in marketing, go to someone who specializes in marketing. You should request a notification before your resume goes out for two reasons. One, some of you will use more than one recruitment firm. You don't want that going to the, multiple ones going to the same company. Two, and I think this is even more important, sometimes if they're not savvy, they'll send you out for multiple jobs at one company. Some companies don't care about that. Some companies care. And what they're going to do is think you don't know what you want to do, and they're going to blackball you. You do not want that to happen. Usually they'll find you on LinkedIn or something, and a lot of times you'll respond back to them and never hear back, but sometimes you will. This is passive, not active job seeking. You're just expecting them to go find you something, and that's not their job, but they are looking for people for their clients, and that's a potential for you. But you are not actively seeking that job out, applying to it, all that kind of stuff, and then spending extra time following up. They're taking care of that. And keep in touch with them, but don't bug them weekly. You'll be on a list at that point. But you can check in with them every 2 or 3 weeks and see if they need anything from you, have any questions, things like that. Job fairs. Hugely important. You should go to them. So once we open back up, job fairs will come back. Now everybody will be in masks, but they will come back. And the thing that you want to know with them is that you're networking there. Most people don't get a job through a job fair. Doesn't mean it never happens. It means most people don't. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago. So now when you go there, you're usually networking with the person that's at the table for what opportunities they might have in the company or other opportunities they might know about that they might recommend you to. And then you're networking with the people you're in line with, just as if you were at a networking event. So take plenty of resumes and cover letters, and these will have general statements at the top. So if you are targeting 3 different job types, take 3 different versions of your resume and cover letter and make sure they have, say, sales professional, customer service professional. Just put that at the top. It should always have a job title up there, no objective statement. We want a job title. That way they know exactly what that resume should tell them about. Plan for a short interview, which means you should dress the part. Dress up to go to a job fair. Do not show up in your jeans and your t-shirt or whatever. And the thing is, some people go, oh, I don't really have any of that fits anymore. Please, once they open up, go back to Goodwill. Goodwill sells to everyone. I use Goodwill. I love their sweaters. They have the best sweaters ever. And what you want to do is go there and find you a couple of nice dress things that won't cost you hardly anything at all. They usually have little tag sales and all kinds of stuff. You can often get a whole outfit for $5 and a nice outfit at that. Try them if you're short on cash. That will really help you and give you the outfit that you'll feel confident to go to things in. Make sure your employer's not attending that job fair. A lot of people have had awkward instances with that in the past. Then show up early. A lot of the recruiters, say it's a 5-hour event, they're only going to stay 2 or 3 hours, and then they'll start leaving. Go early. Don't appear desperate. Don't tell them you need a job. They already know that. That's why you're there. And so you can just talk to them about the opportunities. And remember, they are not necessarily recruiting, if they're a recruiter, for the position that you want. So if they're only recruiting, let's use FedEx for package handlers, and what you're wanting is to look at their management positions, tell them, I'm looking at your management positions and I understand that you're looking for package handlers. Can you give me the name of the recruiter I need to talk to, or can you pass my resume along to them? They usually will do it. Every once in a while, you run into somebody who's just a little weird about it, and do what you can with that situation. But usually they're really sweet about it, and they'll pass your resume along. You may hear from them, and a lot of times they'll give you that person's name, which means we're about to go look them up on LinkedIn. Then follow up. Nothing helps you in networking, in a job fair, or even when you apply for a job and get an interview and you haven't heard back from them yet, if you don't follow up. And a lot of times for, say, a job interview you've had and you haven't heard back from them yet and you're not sure, a call that says, hey, I'm just calling to check in. I know you guys have been busy and I was just wondering if you needed any more information from me to make your decision. You didn't say to them in the message, hey, are you giving me a job? You're just following up with them. I'm telling you, that will make a huge difference. And sometimes that will result in you being the one who gets the job. There are companies out there who, for whatever reason, they think if they don't hear from you within a few days or a couple weeks, that nobody wants the job and that they're just going to interview more people. So don't be a person who loses out. Find out how long before they're going to make their decision, and don't let them just say a few weeks. Say, I do like to follow up. What time frame are you looking at? It's going to benefit you hugely to do some follow-up, but you'll usually be leaving a message and you may never hear anything. But what if you do? What if you're like some of my clients who, because you were the only one that followed up, they invited you in to make you an offer? You want to be that person. So somebody's asking, can you provide pointers on how to use resume, LinkedIn on job boards without risking ID theft? So I wouldn't put your resume on LinkedIn. They already have enough of that information. And on LinkedIn, up towards the top on the right-hand side, there's a place where you can go personalize your URL and choose what people can see when it's not a public thing that, hey, this person's linked to me. You know, the people that are linked to you should be able to see everything. But let's say you're going to go on there and you're going to say, I don't want everybody just to be able to see everything. Well, you can do something about that. Go to that section. So click on personalize your URL. And what it will do is it will allow you, first of all, to change your LinkedIn address to an ending with your name in it. Because it'll always be like www.linkedin.com/n/, and then instead of say Karen Sillens, it'll be Karen_Sillens 1234987 2 ABC, and a whole bunch of letters and numbers. No, you just want to say Karen Sillens or Karen M. Sillens or whatever version of your name you can get. And the other thing you can do is if you have a certification like a PMP or something, put Karen Sillens PMP. Now you're just about guaranteed to get your name. I will tell you on a regular basis, people who have pretty normal names often get their name because most people don't know to personalize. Then the other thing is you can choose what people can see of your information. That's hugely important for people who want to maintain their privacy. So you may show them your most current job and the top information and maybe just one part of your education and that's all. Or you may choose to show people everything. It's up to you. But I will tell you, when somebody's targeting something, usually they're going to go after an organization where they can easily go into it and see everybody's information and just download it. And that's often what happens on the job boards, and they have no intention of doing that to you. The job board people are nice people. It's just this is a way, unfortunately, because of how they have to keep your information so others can access it when they need to, it makes it more vulnerable. So use job boards to your advantage and not have your resume on there, and instead get the alerts and save your information for online, for on LinkedIn where you can control it. Any other questions?
Well, it looks like everything is covered. Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Karen, for all this fantastic information. Our next Career in Finance presentation will take place next Monday, May 18th at 6:30 p.m. and will be focused on networking. That May 18 program will feature Efren Mojica from All About You Consulting. More Career in Finance programs are listed at jocolibrary.org/events/career-finance. Also, be sure to follow the library's Facebook page to receive notifications for more live online Johnson County library programming for all ages. That's facebook.com/jocolibrary. All right. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next time. And again, thank you, Karen. Bye, everybody.